Hey, BubbaTac here, also known as OkieTools, and this is going to be my video review of my Bushmaster carbine. I refer to this gun in my own sequence of acronyms for my collection as Charlie Papa 1 or Carbine Project 1. As I stated in my previous videos, this is a series of videos on my setup and my upgrades to my AR-15s, and this is going to be on my Carbine Project or Charlie Papa 1 carbine. So let's talk real quick about what this carbine was before the project started. This is a Bushmaster XM-15 E2S carbine. This is the 16-inch model with the H-bar barrel. As you can see here, it's an A2 profile out on the end, and then I don't know how well you can see it, but if you're going to see it real well, it's going to be right there in the holes in the handguard that it's a H-bar profile. This is part of their standard law enforcement catalog, and this one is actually a complete rifle I purchased as a police trade-in from a local shop around here, and I got a pretty good deal on it because, you know, police trade-in guns usually don't sell for a whole lot, and they kind of beat up on the outside, carried a lot, shot little, and as you can see, this one's in pretty good shape for being a police trade-in. I think these are also available on the civilian market too, so it's not too hard to come across one. Back then I was really interested in an H-bar specifically, just because they stay cooler longer, and I've actually had experience with this in classes with extremely high round counts, up to the 600, 700, 800 round counts, stacked up next to some very expensive AR-15s, and second day of the class they were getting a lot of jams, and I didn't have a single one because of its mil-spec chamber, and the H-bar kept it to a lot cooler, a lot longer, and it had better extraction over time versus some of the other guns that were in the class that the guys were using. So back then I was really interested in H-bar, but there is a trade-off to that. This is a very heavy gun. That is a very heavy increase to the barrel. I think it's like a 0.6 pounds increase, just over a so well over a half pound, like 9 ounces over a normal like a M4 profile or whatnot, or just, you know, a standard profile barrel, and a lot heavier than that in comparison to say a pencil barreled AR-15. But back then that's what I was interested in, and that's kind of what I went out looking for, and ended up finding this, and it's been a good gun. These Bushmasters have sort of a you know, you either like them or you don't really. I've known a couple guys that have owned them and liked them, and I like mine, but there are some things you need to know about them, and I'll go over just real quick. This particular gun, and this has changed. The ones that are coming, that are in the catalog now, the ones that are being sold, have actually modified this, but if you're buying one of the old ones, this is something you need to keep in mind. Mine does not have an F-mark front sight, and the new ones I believe do come with an F-mark front sight, and mine actually has, I don't know how well you can tell there, but you see that slant right there, and the way these are done, the threads, this is actually a commercial buffer tube and commercial stock. The new ones come with a full mil-spec one from Bushmaster, but if you're buying one of the old ones like I have here, older ones, I say old ones, this is only 10, 11 years old. I don't really remember when I got it, so who knows when they bought it, or the law enforcement agency it came from bought it. But the older ones that Bushmaster was putting out used commercial parts and non-F-mark front sights, so that's just something to be aware of. But if you are buying one of the newer ones or getting a hold of one of the newer ones, I don't want they made the transition, but they should now have mil-spec buffer tubes and stocks, and should have an F-mark front sight, I believe. Some other things to be aware of: this is not T-marked on the back of the rail. I think some of the newer ones are, not 100% certain, but that's just some stuff to be aware of if you're actually looking at one of these. So the first modification that I did to this carbine, or the first project that I started with in the actual Carbine Project 1, which would become the Carbine Project 1 for me, was the rail system. So I wanted to put a rail on it, and M-LOK was pretty new when I did this. It's been quite a while ago. Key mod was pretty new. What I was really interested in was actual rails. I wanted a quad rail, and I was kind of looking at different options. The specific things that I was interested in was, or keeping, or not having to mess with, was I wanted something that could just go on as it was. I didn't want to have to mess with taking the front side off, pushing the pins out and taking it off. I just wanted to leave it in place. That was just what I was interested in back then, was leaving this in place. And I was first looking at something that would allow me to keep the delta ring and just have a actual rail on there, a quad rail. And there's plenty of options like that out there if you're looking around for something, you know, sort of the same thing. But I decided there were some additional things that I wanted over time as I was looking and shopping around. I decided that I wanted it to be free float, and you know, if I was going to put a rail in there, it might as well be free float. And I also decided that I wanted it to be a monolithic rail. So that pretty much meant the delta ring was going to have to go, and the spring pack and everything, all that sort of stuff. So then if I was going to do that but still keep this on here, I would have to go with something that was two-piece, just to make it easy. And I came across Midwest Industries two-piece quad rail. I had liked some of Midwest's other products and looked them at them before, so I was really interested in, when I found out that it was two-piece and the quad rail and monolithic and free float and everything, and it just seemed like a real nice product. So I researched it a little bit more, and just to give you some specs on it, this is the Gen 2. This has the quick disconnect swivel connects. It is drop-in, but to get it on you have to cut the delta ring off. It does use the existing barrel nut, and this is the carbine length, because my gas system is carbine length. They also make a mid-length and a rifle length and all that sort of stuff if you're interested in that. But the whole premise for going with this rail for me was to be able to keep my front sight, so all I needed was a rear sight, and could just co-witness when I put an optic on it and all that sort of good stuff. That's what I was kind of going for. So when I came across this, I was really happy I found it. And so far, after having this for a long time and using it quite a bit, I love it. I really do. Just to give you a quick understanding of it, it is T-marked. It does, since my upper receiver here isn't, it kind of just stops right there, but it is T-marked. If that's something of interest to you, there's some nice big holes right here for good cooling. And there is no issue with my particular carbine that has an H-bar barrel. There's no issue with it being too close to the actual inside of the rail. There's plenty of room in there, no problem. I had no issues with installation. And if you're doing a modification like this, I used to have some video on this, but I don't think I do anymore. Cutting off the delta ring is real easy. Just take a Dremel tool and be real careful and go real easy on it, and you can just cut through the delta ring and cut through the springs and just pull them right off, no problem. And it's a good idea to go ahead and tape the front part of your receiver with some masking tape when you're actually doing that, and as much of the barrel as you can get to when you're doing that, just to be on the safe side. But it's a very simple process. And then when you're actually installing this, it just installs with those 4 Allen screws right there. I believe it even came with an Allen key for installation in the actual setup. So it goes on there real nice. It does not come, the one I got does not actually come with rail covers. I'll get to that in a minute. There may be ones they sell out there that do, but it's a real nice quad rail, and it has a nice addition, even though I don't use them, of having these slots for your sling swivel. There's actually one up here, one right here, and then there's 2 on the other side, so you can have it anywhere you actually want it. And just be aware, why I have this actually uncovered is because you can't actually put one of these rail sections actually over it because of back here with the screws. You can actually modify these, and there are some other rail sections that don't have any problem with that, but on these particular ones from Magpul, that was the issue, so that's why I didn't do it. And I wanted to leave the swing swivel accessible on the backside in case I ever wanted to swap out from using the sling swivel right right here. So that's why I went ahead and did that. But yeah, this is for the carbine length, and there were no issues on installation. It goes real well, and it is stayed on there real nice and tight. I haven't had to tighten it or anything in the several years that I've had it, and it creates all sorts of options out here on the end that we'll talk about here momentarily. So to get down to the obvious, my color choice this time around was going to be OD green, and that's just the color choice I came up with, and I decided to get all Magpul style furniture associated with that. And just to go over those real quick, like I was talking about up here with the rail covers, these are the two-piece model from Magpul. You just break those open by sticking a cartridge case in here and a cartridge case in there and just pop them open and come off. And I've had to deal with other rail covers before. I really like these. They're easy to deal with, get them on, get them off. And I really liked them that they were two-piece because it allowed me to get the slightly cheaper black ones, and then at the time a little bit more expensive OD green, and I could do a checkerboard pattern, as you see, all along the rifle. So it became, you know, green, black, green, black, green, black, and it looks pretty cool, I think. So that was a neat touch right there. And then there's the OD green pistol grip. I believe that's the MOE Plus. I don't have a you know, adapter to go in there for, you know, whatever they carry, batteries, bolts, spare firing pin, whatever it is, but that is an option. I just have mine with the cap it came with in there. I went with the Magpul OD green trigger guard right there, and I really like that. It gives you a little bit extra room, and they also make those in aluminum, but I kind of like that polymer one right there. Also did an OD green foregrip. Back then I really liked foregrips, still kind of do, and I prefer the vertical kind here, not the slanted kind. May change my mind on that in the future, but I really do like these, and I believe this is the medium one. I didn't want it sticking way far out, but I didn't want it to be just a little stub, and I kind of like that. Or it may be the stub, I don't know. I just like that length. That's good for me. And these screws are real good. Never had any problem with this coming loose or this coming loose or anything like that. Magpul makes some real good products, and I really like this furniture. And since I went with one manufacturer, I didn't have to worry about different shades of OD green. That can always be an issue when you're buying from different manufacturers. Their OD green may be different than the OD green that you bought from somebody else. So I kind of went with Magpul as just one manufacturer, so I didn't have to worry about different colorations. This is one of my slings I was talking about in my other video. This is an OD green one, and I just make these myself. Get the keepers right here, the slots, and just put it in there, and I think they're like 72 inches, and they're, you know, perfect as 2-point slings. I like just doing those myself, and they work real good. I got them on almost all my rifles and shotguns. So as I was talking about, with all the options you have with having a rail, which if you can see right there, you get the Midwest Industries where their logo's at and made in the USA and everything from this side. What the rail gives you with all the options of having a nice quad rail or any sort of rail out there, you have options to hang stuff off of it. In this particular case, I do like to go minuscule as much as I can, just the essentials. That's not really an essential, but I do like increasing the capability of my grip and keeping it very simple. The light is the main thing for me for the rail, and the whole reason why I wanted one was a light. So this particular one is a Olight, I believe it's the Warrior M20, and this is the one that has the you know, adjust from the side. So with the strobe feature and everything. So I've already done a review on this, so I'm not really going to get into it much, but you know, it has momentary, and then that's the full-on. You switch modes right here. Sorry, turned it off. Yeah, you switch modes right here. That was a small, medium, there's the bright, and then you hold it down for strobe, and strobe is on constant until you click it off. And it's a nice light. I really do like it. This was actually the light I specifically bought for this gun, and they are really affordable lights for all the features you get. And just to go over some of the things about it. I don't even know if this particular one is still being made. They may have actually replaced it with something else, or upgraded at least. And the cool thing about that when they do that is the ones go on that preceded to go on closeout, so you can get them for an even better price, really. But it's actually it's meant to be a weapons light. It has dual springs, and it's shockproof and all that sort of thing, and it is made to be a weapons light, and it works great in that role. But this sort of setup is, and the way it comes in the box, is kind of for a carry light, with the clip right there and the cigar grip, and the crenulated bezel and the stainless steel bezel and everything, and all the grippiness and texture on it, and serrations and stuff like that. It's kind of meant for carrying, but it's also meant to be a weapons light. I've been told that you can take the cigar rings off and the clip will come off as well. I have hammered the crap out of this before back in the day and could not get it off, and I just decided to run it that way. If you're wondering, this right here is a G&G or triple G flashlight mount. I really do like it. It just has the two bolts right there that secure it, and it has a little spring part right here that holds it together on the bottom, and then you just go ahead and connect it on there and tighten it down. I've had no problems with it, and it's very minuscule on there, very small, and doesn't take up a lot of room, and I'm still able to get rail cover sections behind it, and it is as far out there as I can get it, which is where I like it. And it's on the right side of the gun, so I can actually hold the grip. I'm actually holding on the other side of the grip, have my hold on the other side, and I can actually rotate my thumb down here and actuate the light, which is what I like. I have run it on the left side of the gun, and I didn't really care for that. It just crowded where I have my traditional hold on the gun, my traditional grip on the front of the gun, and I didn't really care for that. So this is the side that I like on that. So here we are at the rear of the gun again, and this is just a real simple pop-up rear sight, and I can't remember who makes that. It's one of the cheaper manufacturers, maybe UTG or something like that. It's not even adjustable for elevation, it just is adjustable for windage, so you can zero it. And it just has the simple large and small aperture, like any A2 rear sight or whatnot. Kind of like that. It's real simple, it's real affordable, and since it's made out of aluminum, it's like a standard carry handle would be, which I used to run a carry handle on here, just standard carry handle, and I really like that because it gave you so much adjustability. And I kind of like the A2 setup, traditionally speaking, but this allows you more room on the rail for what I'll get to here later. But that's a real nice, well made, for it being affordable as it is, rear sight. So this right here was one of the big upgrades I was wanting to do. I love these BCM Gunfighter charging handles. Absolutely love them. And let me get my arm out of the way. Absolutely love those charging handles. This is the medium setting, the medium latch. They make a small. I really don't see the purpose of the small if I'm going to upgrade. I guess if I didn't want it to catch on stuff as much, but I really hadn't had that problem in any of the courses or anything that I've used it on. And they make a larger. I really don't care for the larger. I would worry about it catching on stuff like that, but I'm sure guys that run them, usually run them for competition, never had any problems. But I use the medium, and I really do like these from BCM, and I do plan on upgrading all my charging handles to them. Got the weapon broke open here to show you the Spikes tactical buffer. I'm not going to take it out of there because it's pretty greasy. This is the Model 2, I believe they call it, which is their slightly upgraded buffer. They have the 1, which is like standard, which is what I used to run in there at H1, and then they have the 2, and they have the 3. 3 is more meant for like really, shorter barreled weapons or shorter gas systems. But I love the 2. I think it has really helped with reducing felt recoil, which is minuscule, very minuscule with this gun because of the H-bar, which is another thing I was looking for. I mean, it's heavy as all get out, but you do not feel, I mean, it feels like every time you're pulling the trigger it's like 22 long rifle, which I do have an adapter that I use with this, and you know, you can go all day long, no problems. Not that that's an issue with AR-15s, but it is an issue when you hand it to new shooters and stuff like that, dealing with them getting used to the gun and everything. So off of a rest, they don't even feel the weight, and they definitely don't feel the recoil with those upgrades to it. Future upgrades. This is still a work in progress. I plan on getting a new buffer tube, a mil-spec one, and going with the mil-spec stock. Probably one of the BCM Gunfighters, or maybe a Magpul CTR, but it'll most likely be an OD green. I may just stick with Magpul so I don't have to worry about the coloration, or I may even go with a black one and just paint it myself, or just roll the dice with the BCM. But I really do like their stocks from both manufacturers, and I will need a new buffer tube, and I will probably be going to mil-spec so I don't have to worry about having a commercial stock. The whole reason why I went with a rail was to also give me some more room on the front end for an eventual optic. It has been long overdue. I have focused on a lot of other projects and kind of put this on the back burner, but it definitely has come to the forefront now in my collection, and I really am looking at a red dot for it, and it'll probably be, once I get the funds, it'll probably be a Vortec Strike-Fire 2. Love those. They don't weigh a lot. They just work. That's all I can really say about them. They just work. When I get it, I'll be doing an update video and maybe a review of the Strike-Fire 2, but a red dot optic is in its future. Now that takes me to another point, as I was talking about at the beginning of the video. This is not an F-Mark front sight, and I may be going with some Magpul rear sight or something like that, a pop-up rear sight, or I may just stick with this if it's not too tall right here for working with the red dot. I really don't want it too far forward, just to keep center of gravity going pretty good with the gun. But as long as it doesn't have any issues with that, or when it's up have any issues, I may just stick with this, because I really do like this rear sight. As long as I can get a co-witness going. That may be an issue when I put the red dot on. If that is an issue, I probably will have to go back to, which is the whole reason in the beginning wanting to just keep it on there, go back to removing the front sight to replace it with an F-Mark front sight block, because I really do like having the front sight block on there. And I don't mean to make that sound like a big deal. Pushing the pins out is nothing. It really isn't, you know. And if you're going to do any work up here in the front, really, like when I modified my front sight block for my rifle project, which is going to be a full monolithic, you know, sans the front sight block, and I modified my front sight block, you know, took it off the gun so that I wouldn't have to worry about nicking the barrel or anything like that when I was actually cutting this down. And if you're going to be doing any work out here, I do highly recommend removing the front sight. So it's not really an issue. I just wanted it to be a part of the rifle going forward. I want to keep a front sight block on there. That's not a big issue to me when using a red dot, and I kind of like that you have it as a reference point out there on the front. So I may have to update that to an F-marked front sight block for co-witness issues, but if it's not an issue, I'm just going to leave it the way. And like I said, the newer Bushmasters that are coming out already have them on there, so, or should already have them on there, so it's nothing you have to worry about. Many other manufacturers that are putting them out nowadays are using F-Mark front sight blocks. So those will probably be the upgrades in the future. Just to go over real briefly in closeout, with all these options on here, it is still a very inexpensive rifle. Should say carbine. I purchased it for maybe like $700. This rail right here, when I bought it, I believe was on for like $125, maybe $150 at most. This light, when I bought it, was on closeout. Can't even remember what I paid for it, but I guarantee it wasn't more than $30 or $35 at the time. Normally like $50, which is still a very affordable light. This rear sight, I believe, may have come with one of my other guns, or may even come with this gun, so I really didn't have to pay anything for that. These charging handles from BCM are pretty affordable for what charging handles are going for nowadays. I think I only paid like 45-50 bucks for that. Buffers from Spikes are real inexpensive. You should really look into them. And of course, the one good thing about Magpul is all these items, whether they be the rail covers, the forward grip, or the pistol grip, or the trigger guard, are all really inexpensive, and they just work. They just, you know, are so comfortable and really make the rifle look good. I'm sorry, carbine look good, and they're good. They're good products for as little money as you're spending on them. And the sling I made myself. You know, I do one of these with the keepers for like maybe $250. I mean, they're so inexpensive. So it really is an inexpensive gun. And even when I do the optic in the future, or even upgrade the buffer tube and the stock, those aren't exceedingly expensive in comparison to other stocks, other buffer tube kits, and other optics that are out there like red dots. They really aren't that expensive. I think a Strike-Fire 2 goes for like $175 today, and you know, they're very available. And buffer tube kits can be had for mil-spec buffer tube kits can be had for not a lot of money, and stocks, either a BCM Gunfighter or a Magpul CTR, are really not that expensive, like $50. So altogether, this gun, when you do it over time, which is something I like to do, is modify my guns over time, you really don't spend a lot of money, and you can actually have some really nice semi-customized setups with, you know, the coloration I chose and everything, and your choice of lights and optics and rails and stocks and pistol grips, and even internals such as the buffer and so on, or if you want to do triggers and things like that. Over time, you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you can really have a nice product. And as I can attest to from using this specific gun in courses and whatnot and shooting, never really had that much of a problem with it. And I've seen some really high-end expensive guns go down and be nearly inoperable without being nearly disassembled to remedy the problem, and never had this issue with this gun. Any stoppages I've ever had were intentional stoppages set up for courses, or incidents involving ammo selection, and they were quickly cleared with no problem. So these are, if you are looking at Bushmaster guns, at least from my experience with them, I do recommend them. If you are looking at potential law enforcement trade-in guns, such as the AR-15 platform, I do recommend that. And if you are just looking at this as a project gun, it doesn't matter who the manufacturer is or whatnot, just as a project gun as a whole, I hope you enjoyed it and got some ideas on what you could do. And if you want to leave me some comments in the comment section on some ideas you guys might have on some additional upgrades I could do to this in the realm of affordability, I would appreciate it. So this was my video on my Bushmaster carbine. This is my 16-inch barreled, H-bar barreled Charlie Papa 1 or Carbine Project 1 video. Thanks for watching.